Morning, we'll bring this Kettle Creek Full Authority agenda to order August 12th. Kettle Creek likes to acknowledge, Kettle Creek Conservation Authority wishes to acknowledge the Treaty of the Traditional Lands originally occupied by the Indigenous First Nations people of the Anishinaabe, Attawandarunk, and Haudenosaunee Nations. KCCA strives to build meaningful relationships with Indigenous communities and recognizes the importance of respecting these treaties and lands. It reminds the board of declarations of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, I'll move to the minutes of the last meeting. Lori, Grant? Any omissions or errors?
Lori Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Frank Burrs sent regrets. Jim Herbert sent regrets. Grant Jones.
Yes.
Sharon McMillan.
Yes.
Jerry Pribble.
Yes.
JJ Strybosh sent regrets. Sam Trousseau is joining us in 10 minutes. John Wilson.
Yes.
And Todd Noble.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay. Moving on, matters arising, media report, Betsy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The usual highlights of social media from the past month. The first was promoting the day use opportunities at Lake Whitaker. The next was a feature on monarch butterflies. We had some coverage about the fishing derby that was held at Lake Whitaker, and an article on the amalgamation.
Any questions for Betsy? Grant?
Just comment, my wife and I and our entire family spent 5-6 days at Lake Whitaker. Great time, don't, love the place, probably be back. The only suggestion I could have is turn down the temperature in the showers. They are so hot. They're a push button, so you can't control the temperature and the poolside campground. There. You need to send staff in and try them out.
Money on a
I like a hot shower, but whoa.
I would like to ask just one question. With the information that you put out there for the amalgamation, has there been any sort of public response, like any comments online or anything? Okay.
No.
Okay, moving on to project tracking, Elizabeth?
So we're at the height of the camping season and busy field season. The Rewild the Family has continued this year, and I believe Jesse has delivered equipment, or families have picked up for 3 families, I believe, were Rewild this year. So great to continue that project. We're just gearing up. The RFP for the Dalewood Dam rehabilitation was posted yesterday with updated drawings and tenders. We've submitted an application to the TD Friends of the Environment for the Children's Water Festival, which we'll host in St. Thomas next year. We did receive a $3,500 micro grant from Invasive Species Action Funds to continue tackling woody invasives, this time at Dalewood and Lake Whitaker. We've dealt with a fairly lengthy smoke and poor air quality season already this summer with updated policies to handle that. And we took ownership of the Greenworks battery operated zero-turn mower that actually cut the grass, I think, twice now up front. And so staff are ecstatic to have that as part of the fleet.
Okay, any questions, Lori?
Thank you. I would like a little bit more information on Rewild the Family. I was heavily engaged a few years ago, so I just was wondering, have they attended yet? Did they enjoy themselves? And
so that'll actually be this weekend. 2 of the
Coming up this
games will be
weekend?
this weekend, and the 3rd will be the following weekend.
very good. Thank you. Hope we get a report that they thoroughly enjoyed themselves.
Any other questions? I'll just make note though too that Sam joined us. Okay. Jeff, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
As many of you are likely aware, landowners that own land or forested property with over 10 acres of forest on their property are eligible for a tax incentive program called the Managed Forest Tax Incentive Program. We have roughly 970 acres of forested lands on Conservation Authority owned lands that are eligible for this program. And these applications have to be renewed every 10 years. So roughly 875 acres of our properties, forested lands had to be renewed by July 1st of this year. So we retained GWG Resource Services to undertake all the inventories, do all the paperwork, and put the application together and submit it to the Ministry of Natural Resources on our behalf. They did provide reports, and they did observe that some of our older properties, Dan Patterson in particular, Dalewood north of the river between Ron McNeil and Highbury, Kirk Cousins and Union had over mature trees, meaning that a lot of those trees are reaching kind of the end of their they no longer produce seeds that are viable and are no longer vigorously growing, that type of thing. They also identified on a lot of our properties American beech trees that are impacted by the two diseases that are kind of prevalent in the area right now, beech leaf disease and beech bark disease. And they did recommend that if possible, that we investigate doing some sort of selective harvest to improve the health of these woodlots and to improve the age stratification of these properties. So, and to create some canopy openings where we can add some diversity, particularly the more mature section of Dan Patterson, where it's just a lot of really sugar maple. Adding some diversity in there would be a good thing. They also observed on a lot of our properties where we have planted or done plantations in the past that most of them are doing pretty well. They did recommend doing some continuing with the invasive species removal, doing some limb pruning on some of the plantations, and thinning out conifer dominant plantations to allow hardwoods, natural hardwoods to grow. So we will continue doing what we've been doing as far as in looking into ways to continue doing invasive species removal, and we'll investigate small scale thinning operations and that type of thing. And we'll also consult with the GWG to assess the feasibility of implementing the recommended selective harvests and establish a realistic time frame for doing so. Additionally, every year we have to apply to another tax incentive program called the Conservation Land Tax Incentive Program. That if eligible properties, if you have eligible properties, it reduces the tax on those properties down to 0. Whereas the MIFTIP one reduces it to 25% of the residential tax rate. So yeah, we have 291 acres in the Conservation Land Tax Incentive Program. So yeah, slide. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jeff? Grant?
Thanks. You see any ash making a comeback, popping up in the woodlots?
There are a lot of younger ash that I've seen in a lot of our woodlots, but I've also seen incidences of the emerald ash borer kind of making a comeback. So there's no, I don't know if that was going to be your next question. So unfortunately, yeah.
Lori?
Thank you. On the harvest, is there revenue that is produced by that, and where does the revenue end?
Yeah, quite often with a selective harvest, there is revenue generated. And quite often we've been putting it into reserves for putting in towards maintenance of our woodlots and doing invasive species and management activities.
Thank you.
Jeff, that program, if a farmer was to tie into that, would they get the 25% on top of the farm rate?
If
I know it might be.
if MIFTIP brings the tax rate on that property down to the same as what agricultural land is taxed at.
Gotcha.
So if a farmer did have property that wasn't in agricultural land and applied for it, then it would bring it down to the 25%, but wouldn't on agricultural land because it's already taxed at the same rate.
Okay. And then at the 10 acres, does it have to be a complete 10 acres or can it be a parcel of 10 acres that gets put together?
It has to be on one single assessment roll number, so it can't be spread across 2 or 3 properties. That's the one roll number.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you for the information in the report, Jeff. Watershed conditions, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. August is usually a pretty quiet time for conditions. Water levels are still around the same level in Lake Erie that they've been for the last little while. Water levels are still below the record high, which is kind of nice to see for Lake Erie. July, we did get over 100% of the average total rainfall for the month of July, which was nice. That works out to be about 74.7 millimeters for the watershed. The outlook for August to October indicates above normal temperatures and near normal precipitation for the region. We did issue two water condition statement flood outlooks, one at the end of July over the long weekend and the week before, and then one on August 2nd up over the long weekend, just based on significant rainfall in the forecast. And we did have a nice feel-good story. We successfully released 10 painted turtles back into the Dalewood Reservoir just this past week. We do have some more turtles and snapping turtles incubating, and they'll come out when they hatch, but that's the first batch.
Cool. Any questions? Lori?
Just to follow up, I did see the story on social media and absolutely loved the fact that you're posting that. And look forward to the stories that you're going to be presenting in the future with the snappers and more painted turtles.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay. Sam and Jerry, I don't want to forget about you guys online. Need a mover to receive the information. Sam, Jerry, you want a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Lori Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Grant Jones.
Yes.
Sharon McMillan.
Yes.
Jerry Pribble.
Yes.
Pam Trousseau.
Yes.
Don Wilson.
Yes.
And Todd Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to correspondence. Do we want to touch on all of these?
Mr. Chair, I'll just say a couple of things on pretty much all of them, just to highlight. So on July 15th, the Ontario Provincial Agency did announce the project executives for the 9 regions across the province. As you know, Sam Lawson, who's the general manager of Grand River Conservation Authority, was appointed as our project executive for Eastern Lake Erie. I did put up all the other appointments, and you can see that the majority of them were existing GMs within the network, except the 3 appointments to Lake Huron, Northeastern, and Western Lake Ontario were outside of the CA network. Next slide. We did put out a joint statement on July 17th, just making everyone aware of Sam's announcement or Sam's appointment. Next one. I did post the letter that we sent to the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency about our request for municipal representation past the municipal election to remain or have the opportunity to forego the 70% rule and have some non-elected officials appointed. So to try to ensure that the members that are existing today continue through the transition period. I have not heard back from OPCA yet in that regard. And then finally, on July 30th, the province came out with the official announcement of the transition committee appointments. So I think we were generally all aware of who was going to be appointed to that committee. The province does have the ability to name others, but neglected to make those appointments and stayed with just the general managers and the CAOs for each of the predecessor CAs. And I did receive a nice thank you letter from the Health Recruitment Partnership, thanking KCCA staff for their assistance during the Discovery Week and hosting the medical sequence at Dale.
Thanks. Any questions? Seeing none. Recommendation is that correspondence be received. Grant. John?
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Pribble.
Yes.
Rousseau.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
And Noble.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to statement of revenue and expenses. Elizabeth?
Mr. Chair, that was forwarded out. I don't think there's too many surprises in there. The campgrounds are at where we would expect them to be for this time of year. So no real concerns there. Dale is a little behind in numbers. And so we have talked about running some September promotions just to get those numbers back up with where we want them to be. But otherwise, I'm happy with the statements so far.
Any questions?
Jerry.
Jerry?
Sorry, thanks, Elizabeth. I did have a question regarding the each revenue, but you already mentioned it. So even though we are higher than, of course, this is summer, which is the highest for us, but both Lake Whitaker and Dalewood, you feel that both of them, you feel confident that we'll reach those numbers?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Question on the expenditures. Enhanced monitoring, quite low. Was there additional savings or we decided not to do it?
No, the enhanced monitoring, the bulk of those expenses will come in August and September, so aren't reflected in these statements.
Okay, thank you. Education and outreach already over the budget, reasoning?
That is basically because we did a transfer from reserves out to the trust, and so that's reflected in those numbers.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, going back to the balance sheet, if I remember correctly, accounts receivable, 667,000. Any concerns or any amounts? Because, no, please go ahead.
No, the accounts receivable will be at that level 1 because the municipal levies, some of our municipalities, such as the City of London and St. Thomas, pay monthly. So the bulk of that is still outstanding for their levies. And then we would have put an invoice out for the WECI project, which was substantial and probably remains on those statements in terms of receiving yet.
Okay, so even though we haven't received it, on the revenue and expense summary, we are already accounting that we received it.
Yes, as soon as the invoice is there, it's sitting there as a receivable.
Perfect. Thank you very much. No more questions.
Any other questions? Mover and seconder that we approve the statement? Sharon?
Yeah.
Grant?
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Grant Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Pribble.
Yes.
Rousseau.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
And Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Under new business, ERO posting, consultation.
Chair, I'll walk you through this posting that was released basically at the end of July. So the proposal posting really deals with a lot of governance matters related to the new regional conservation authorities. The first regulation sets out is a proposed regulation for the Ontario Provincial Conservation Area board members, and the second details how the new membership on the regional conservation authorities would be dictated. So next slide. So in terms of the posting that deals with the board of directors for the Ontario Provincial Conservation Authority agency. So if you remember, this is provincial agency. It will also have a board of directors. This proposal sets out basically the exclusion, so who cannot be appointed to that board of directors. It's already written in the CA Act that members of Parliament or the Legislative Assembly cannot be members. It's proposed that additional exclusions would be a registered lobbyist under Ontario's Lobbyist Registration Act, current members of a CA, or an individually currently employed as an officer or senior staff member of a CA. So not very controversial. I think all those exclusions we would generally agree with. What I want to spend the bulk of the time on this morning is explaining the other proposal, which deals with how the membership of the new RCAs would be determined. So the CA Act already sets out that the lower tier municipalities, which have traditionally been the members, are no longer the members. Under the new RCAs, it would be the upper tier and single tier municipalities, which would form the membership. So locally for us, that means the city of St. Thomas, the city of London, Elgin County, and Middlesex County would be the only participating municipalities on the new RCA. Next slide. So then the question comes is, how do we determine the membership from those upper tier and single tier municipalities? The province is proposing a tiered allocation formula that uses population data from Statistics Canada. If you can see that each municipality is assigned a tier based on the percentage of the region's total population it presents. And the tier determines how many members it is able to appoint. So with that being said, every municipality is guaranteed one member on the board. So when a municipality's population represents less than 5% of the total population of the region, they're assigned one member. So regardless of your population, you're guaranteed one member. Fourth tier is the highest tier, where they're guaranteed 4 members for having a representation population of greater than 30%. What does this mean for the Lake Erie region? So for us, it basically equates to a 23-member board. And the dotted lines on the right-hand side of the chart represents the variation between those tiers. So you can see Waterloo region at the top has the biggest majority of population within the region. They're guaranteed 4 members. The next tier is Hamilton, Guelph, Brantford. Brantford, they get 2. And then everyone beyond that, our population only sits at that first tier. So we only get 1 member. So for London, St. Thomas, Middlesex, and Elgin County, they would get 1 member on a 23-member board. If you recall, when I sent this out earlier, and I think I talked about a reference to 24-member board. From the first rendition that the province put out with the ER posting, I think there's been 2 updates since, and this is the latest update. So in determining the population, they made some errors in the population, but in our case, I believe the mistake happened when they put Brantford's population in with Brant County or vice versa, which caused them to go up a tier and get an extra. So they were like double counting a population, which caused that extra position. So I think it settled basically at 23, but the province has reminded us that, this will change from time to time as populations increase or decrease, and then would be reevaluated at various times to determine the actual membership. Next slide. The proposal continues to allow for participating municipalities to develop their own agreement instead of strictly using the population tiered allocation. This is something that already exists in the CA Act and has been enacted by some CAs. For instance, Waterloo or Grand River, it's such a large area, but it has some very small municipalities. Rather than them each having a member, those municipalities have got together and they share a member on the board. One, to keep the membership down on the actual GRCA's board, as well as to use their resources effectively in those smaller municipalities. But in order to use an agreement moving forward, the province is suggesting that it needs to be agreed to not by just the participating municipalities that want to share a representative or do something different. It has to be agreed to by all participating municipalities within the region. And it cannot result in any participating municipality having more than 5 members. and can't result in the size of the board exceeding the number of board members that would exist under the tiered allocation formula. So even if all the participating board members, even if all the participating municipalities agreed they wanted to have a 25-member board and assign Elgin County 2 extra representatives, that wouldn't be allowed because we have to stick within the 23 that it's allowed under the population formula. And the province has also set out that the municipal agreements cannot be used for the first appointments to the Regional Conservation Authority. So February 1st, it will be looking for the appointments to come under the tiered population. And then in the next round of appointments, they could develop an agreement. But they want the population formula to be used for these first appointments. So next slide, just to give some analysis, I did put out the supplementary document to the ARO posting, which the province looked at each region and figured out the population and then the resulting formula. What you can see from even the eastern region is that there's the Waterloo region basically holds the majority, not the majority of the members, but the bulk of the members, as well as the bulk of the population, sitting at 30, almost 40% of what the rest of the CA holds. So there's in each of the region, I believe that because we're tiering it on population, it very much is skewed to the urban population and the urban municipalities versus the rural municipalities. And that's just by virtue of the what they've used to determine the membership. So in our region, it's Waterloo region has that kind of that majority on the board. And if you go to the other regions, you can see similar things happening. So this is the Lake Huron example, where York region, again, highly populated, ends up with 40% of the population within the watershed, ends up with the only municipality having 4 members. And the rest of the municipalities are anywhere between 16% all the way down to 0.2%. Their lowest municipality there. So I want to do some more discussions, more evaluating. I don't have recommendations for you this morning in terms of how to respond to the ERO. I'm happy to get feedback from the board members this morning on what they've seen in those documents coming out or any concerns that they have. But I am looking for direction today. The comments to the ERO posting are due September 12th, which is just prior to our September board meeting. So I won't have an opportunity to really come back with recommendations. So I'm asking that the chair and vice chair be able to work with me to come up with the recommendations or an official response from the board back to the ERO posting based on what I'm hoping will be some discussions that we have with the other partners in the Lake Erie region.
This is not, that is a huge group. Being on board just lower half that size, it's like herding cats someday. Why wouldn't they do a weighted vote? So there's only one member from each, and if you go back to the previous slide, where Waterloo has 4, why wouldn't they just have one with 4 votes? This is all about saving money, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That still leaves you with a board of 17.
What's that?
Like it still leaves you a huge board.
Yeah,
Like,
it knocks out 4, which makes it a little bit easier.
well, it could knock off 6. Like if you took the other ones that are at 2 as well, you didn't put them all in one and did a weighted vote. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would probably be more manageable, right?
It's the same thing in the end. Like, I'm sure they're gonna vote as a block anyway. 99% of the time, so.
Yeah. Just for clarification, those 23 are all elected officials, Elizabeth.
No, so with the updates into the CA Act, you no longer have to follow the 70% rule. It's taken out, so a participating municipality could appoint basically a public appointee, but it does set out, I think there's 3 requirements. So they would have to have basically knowledge of a CA, knowledge of public administration, and then anything else that the province sets out in regulation. But right now, I believe it's just the 2.
I do like Grant's suggestion about the weighted vote, John.
Yeah, well, just the representative that you're sending to the thing has got to be someone that has some hands on some levers, because how do you know what you're going to be if you're not part of Elgin County Council? How the hell do you know what Elgin County Council's up to? Like I think it's got to be someone that's
Ideally, it's
in there.
an elected official, somebody that's part of that council, right?
And that it can be someone else. I just like.
But the learning curve on that board's going to be steep.
Oh, it's-
Because now you're sitting on a board that, like we sit on Kettle Creek, we deal with Kettle Creek. You're sitting on a board that's dealing with,
Deborah.
yeah, 5.
Dealing with a couple of the probably ones that were bad actors to begin with, worse with them now. So
You have all these little pitfalls that we deal with. And you know, you're gonna multiply that by 100. Yeah. Anyways, it is what it is, I guess. We
I
do the
think
best we can.
I think a lot of the stuff that we deal with here, like at the board, is not going to be they can't deal with all the stuff that we deal with at this level on this board with that many people and that many conservation areas. It's going to be impossible. So a lot of these board level decisions that we're making here are going to be done by managers.
it's coming from top down anyway. It's not
Yeah.
going up, it's coming down.
It's sort of, there'll be a lot of stuff fall through the cracks, I think.
And further to John's, it's sort of that, for lack of a better word, boots on the ground. How familiar are you going to be with areas that are, you don't live in, or you don't know that well? It's going to be interesting to see how well this works in the end.
The other piece is they still have not made any indication of how the local watershed councils are going to fit into the governance. But again, my understanding is that is a few years out. They want to get the RCA boards in place first and then look at the watershed councils. So what I'm looking for today is we're still analyzing it, still reaching out across the region, but if I could have more direction to work with the chair and vice chair to finalize the recommendation and the submission. That's the.
Sam's got his hand up.
Sam?
Yes,
You muted it?
Oh, you're muted, Sam.
I'd like to make a motion to delegate the next set of preparation for our next board meeting to the director and the chair and vice chair.
Is that what you're looking for, Elizabeth?
Yeah, just with the acknowledgement, Sam, that the submission is due prior to, so it would be us
Noting-
working together to come up with
Noting
that
the
submission.
Yes, like what you just said, yes.
Thanks, Sam. Is there a
That's
seconder?
my- Yep.
John?
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Grant Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble.
Yes.
Trousseau.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
And Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to the municipal apportionment. Elizabeth?
Thank you. So the municipal apportionment was reviewed and sent out for public consultation on June 19th. We've received no submissions from our participating municipalities and no concerns. The draft budget is based on this apportionment. I don't expect any changes in that regard. This is an official vote to pass the apportionment. So I do have to read a preamble. To provide conformity with legislation and regulations governing approval of conservation authority apportionments, the proposed year 2027 municipal apportionment was circulated to member municipalities and posted to KCC website on June 19th, 2026, in order to provide a minimum 30-day notice to apportionment approval on August 12th, 2026. There's a 4% average levy increase over 2026 levels, or an overall increase of $52,798. A recorded vote will be taken with each member responding either for or against the motion. The motion carries or is lost according to the total of weighted votes assigned to each board member. This weighted vote is based upon the modified current value assessment apportioned to that portion of each municipality within the jurisdiction of the KCCA watershed. The 2027 municipal apportionment approved by the board will be circulated to participating municipalities on August 13th. Who have not satisfied may appeal to the Ontario Lands Tribunal within 30 days of receiving the notice. Thereafter, no appeals are allowed, and the year 2027 apportionment will be final. So the motion before you today is that the 2027 municipal apportionment be approved, and that the participating municipalities be assessed for payment of $1,372,760, which is comprised of Category 1 operating expenses of $1,120,605.75, Category 3 operating expenses of $173,330.58, and a special levy of $78,823.91. And that each participating municipality's share of the 2027 total municipal apportionment be calculated using current value assessment. I will note, Mr. Chair, that we are approving it today. I will provide notice to the member municipalities of the approval today, but we won't send actual invoices until 2027.
Okay. Any questions? Good. Mover and seconder. Grant?
Our portion is 0.7%. I'm not gonna be one making a motion.
Karen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always challenging.
So based on the regrets today, we have 16.62%, I believe it is, of the weighted vote present today. Those not present in attendance, only the portion of the municipal weighting in the voting of members present are accounted for. So Sam Trousseau.
I vote yes.
Jerry Pribble.
Yes.
Lori Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Todd Noble.
Yes.
Grant Jones.
Yes.
Sharon McMillan.
Yes.
John Wilson.
Yes.
And that motion passes with 66.62% of the weighted vote.
Okay. Kind of exciting, sort of having the budget done and this whole thing done by halfway through, not even halfway through August.
Now we.
And it was a lot of work by staff to get to that point. We appreciate all that work. Okay, moving on. Fee schedules for 2027.
So
Elizabeth.
thank you. Again, looking forward to 2027 and continuing to build that budget. Staff have done early analysis of our fees for next year. I'll just walk you through the various schedules that we're suggesting changes to. There's no changes suggested to the Section 28 regulation fees. And then Schedule 2 is conservation area fees, which we always spend a fair bit of time analyzing and developing the fee schedule for. So we've always done a list of local comparators that have included in the Eastern Lake Erie region, but this year we did our traditional comparators, but we also spent a lot of time looking at how we compared up to the CAs that we will be amalgamating with in the coming year. Whether we looked at within the Lake Erie region or broader out to our normal comparators, our rates are below the 2026 average of those comparators. And our camping season is generally shorter, with most of our comparators extending at least to the Thanksgiving weekend. So staff are recommending an extension of the season to the Wednesday following the Thanksgiving weekend annually. That expansion of the season has been requested multiple times, especially from seasonal campers over the years. And basically, we're proposing from May 1st to October 13th, which would move our camping season from 152 nights to 165 nights. Not only has it been requested by seasonal campers, but we are seeing very much a change in weather patterns that there's almost better weather, or certainly an extended season of camping weather into October that we think it's more realistic for us to try to undertake this. We also have better staffing levels than we have in the past to undertake it as well with those crew leads now permanent staff. Next slide. This was included in your packages, but it gives you an idea of just the comparisons that we do across the board. So you can see our 2026 fees in the left-hand side of the chart and the average of the comparators in the middle. And then what we're proposing for our 2027 fees. So in terms of day use and watercraft rentals, we're seeing no changes. Similarly with our reservation fees and cancellation fees, we feel that we're on par or don't need to make increases because of the really the flatlined level expenses that we have with our reservation system. It's very competitive, and so we can keep those costs down. The main increases are with the camping fees. You can see that we're only raising the camping fees to match the averages of the 2026 levels. So our 2027 proposed fees are only matching the comparators in 2026, which I think is fair to everyone. So for the transient campers, it amounts to about anywhere from a $1 to a $5 change in their nightly fees. But for our seasonal campers, it does represent a $300 increase for 15 amp and a $400 increase for 30 amp services. We can go to the next slide. We recognize that that is an increase for our seasonal campers. However, they are extending the season, which is something that they've asked for. And we're only keeping ourselves comparable to our comparators. This chart here actually breaks down the per nightly fee for our seasonal campers based on the 2026 rate and then on the proposed 2027 rate. So you can see in 2026 for a 15 amp site, they're getting 152 nights of camping. And when you do the math, that equates to about basically $20 a night, which is a substantial cost savings versus what we are charging for a nightly fee for a transient camper coming in and using that same campsite. Those rates are quite similar when we extend the season. So in 2027, that same site is now costing $3,300 a night, but they're getting those extra nights. And when you do the math again, we're talking about an increase of 25 cents per night for those seasonal campers. So we do think that it's a reasonable increase and certainly needed to support the camping, the season extension out to past the October, the Thanksgiving weekend. Can I have the next slide? Watershed programs and services, we're looking at very minimal increase to our over-the-counter seedling costs from basically 65 cents a seedling to 67 cents a seedling, and similar nominal increases to our planted sites, both the seedling cost and the planting services, and increasing our per hour rate for site preparation and invasive species management from 82 to 85. Again, just reflecting those increases to salaries and mandatory benefits. Next slide. And doing the same thing with our administration fees, our per hour wage for data request would be consistent with what we're seeing in our field staff services as well. So those are the changes for 2027. So we are asking that those fee schedules be approved and that they take effect January 1st, 2027. Open for questions.
Any questions for Elizabeth? Grant?
Just a comment, I think it's necessary came up for Thanksgiving. My family, we've been doing it for 5 or 6 years now, and we're in the midst of trying to book something for this year. And I know my wife looked into Kettle Creek's. I said, no, it's not going to be open. So she was disappointed. You get 4 extra trailers to be open this year.
We're always cautious when we raise the rates so that we don't lose customers. But with the minimal rate raising, does that keep us in a position where we're staying with inflation? We have that fear.
Yeah, these numbers have been floated out into that draft 2027 budget. I will also say, like, extending the season is great, but we are cognizant of the fact that the campgrounds have it's always a significant challenge to staff the campgrounds appropriately in September. By then the university students are back at school, and we're seeing that happen earlier and earlier. It seems like they're leaving and checking into residences for first year, and subsequently, like, some are leaving mid-August now, last week of August. So just staffing the Labor Day weekend, let alone a Thanksgiving weekend, has generated a lot of discussion among staff. But we realize that, you know, in an amalgamated authority, we're going to have to make this change, and we have to stay competitive. So we're trying to account for that, but also be fair to the client. But it is a balancing act.
It's tough because you're dealing with, as a business or as the conservation authority, you're dealing with gas being $1.70 a liter, but then your customers are also dealing with gas being $1.70 a liter. So it's tough when we look at how things are affecting everybody at every level. Grant?
I'm just wondering that gap between for September and October, would there be retired people that just want a little extra gas before Christmas or before they head down south?
Mr. Chair, Grant, I think that's a good suggestion, and some of the things that we'll be looking at. With staff have reached out to the other CAs that are open during that gap and looking at scenarios of how they've addressed with it. But certainly one of the discussions we've had is bringing someone on, like a retired person, or maybe high school students are looking for more, weekend work, that we can bring them on and from August to October and it's a long season for people to be working, 7 days a week, or not 7 days a week, but like giving up. I think the biggest thing is giving up every long weekend in the summer to cover it off in the campground. It can be exhausting for staff to do that. So making the request for them to stay open another long weekend was hard.
Yeah.
Does it have an impact on the wage, our wages in her?
So I'm putting that into the draft 20, but the revenue is offsetting.
Grant?
I just, from experience, that the price, at least on the, transients, is comparable to a lot of provincial parks, a little lower than provincial parks, and provincial parks don't, supply water to the campsite.
Oh, okay.
You have to fill up before you go in with your tank, so there is a benefit there. If you go to a private campground, some of the more popular ones, like Fisherman's Cove on, up like Godrich, they're about $110 a night, maybe 120, depending on the site. They aren't offering that much more.
No. Just thinking with the extended season, I know some of the golf courses, they offer discounted memberships and for hours worked, like to help out. I know that there's a managing challenge with that too, when you start managing people that are membered, like that have that. I don't know if that's something we could look at for that extended season, but I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah. I think overall, I think our tactic of setting our next year's rate based on the existing year's competitors has served us well in terms of being competitive and giving good value for our users.
All right. Lori?
You need a mover?
Lori will move. Just go ahead.
Do you have a seconder?
Oh, sorry. Moved on. John? Many things rolling around in my head.
Baldwin Sands,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Cribble,
Yes.
Christo,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
and Noble.
Yes,
And that motion passes.
thank you. So our seasonal camper agreement,
So this is basically standard procedure to update our seasonal camper agreement so that we can roll it out in late August for the new seasonals that will want to return for 2027. There are the normal housekeeping amendments and dates and titles, but we've also incorporated a few things into it. Anticipating that the board would approve the extended season, we did incorporate the intent right into the seasonal camping application this year. So the intent to camp has traditionally been given to the seasonal campers before the season ends, and they indicate they want to come back, and then that allows them to store their like sheds and decks on the site until the next season. So we've incorporated that right into the seasonal camper application. And in keeping with past board direction earlier this year, the hydro deposits have been removed from Dalewood and will be moving forward with a set rate again for both Lake Whitaker and Dalewood and foregoing the metering at Dalewood. And we've updated the payment schedule. And I just have a few points on the payment schedule. Currently, campers who have been willing to pay by September for the next year, we've been giving them that year's rate. So it's been a program that the campers have really liked. But what it means is we're not sending, one of the reasons we did that is because normally we didn't set our rates until November. And while it encouraged early payment by our seasonal campers, it also meant that our revenue wasn't adjusting for about 2 years because they're still paying that year's rate. And so when we're looking at extending the season and taking on those additional costs, we reevaluated that program as well this year. As part of that, campers who did not pay in full by February 25th were charged an extra $100. So they had a surcharge of choosing to delay their payments. So what we're proposing this year is that if you're willing to pay the 2027 rate by September 15th, you would receive a $150 discount. Then we would not apply any surcharges anymore to payments made in full by February 25th, 2027. So seasonal still paying in full by September, still receive a discount. There's an incentive there to pay in full, but there's no penalty for choosing to spread out your payments. And the benefit to KCCA is we receive the anticipated revenue increase in the year that it's anticipated. So again, I think it's a fair scenario for everyone involved, but recognizing it is very much a transition year as we move into a new payment schedule, but also an extended season. So we've removed the hydro deposits, and this may open additional sites for seasonal camping at Dalewood. We're going to take some more time to really evaluate that so we can get it right. And staff are working, as I mentioned earlier, to incorporate the increased staffing needs to the 2027 budget, and that will be presented next month with that full budget.
Okay. Questions?
If I may, I'm just going to get, if Jessica's online, if she can explain the changes to the refund policy that were included in this report. Might not.
I'm here. Okay, so for the refund policy, basically what we have done is we've updated cancellations. So prior to this year, we were allowing cancellations basically up to the day before arrival, and campers could still receive a refund back. In looking at the cancellation policy compared to the other CAs, as well as taking into account what provincial parks are doing and other surrounding campgrounds, we were being very generous. And in some regards, we decided to remove that option, and it's 48 hours or more of the day of arrival for a stay that is under 7 nights to receive a refund back, minus the cancellation and reservation fees. And then the 7 nights or greater cabins and long weekends, that still remains the same as last year. But we also have removed the ability for those to cancel their campsites after they have already checked into the campground. So they can cancel, but they will not receive a refund back now. Whereas before, they could come up the day of that they want to leave. If they were staying for, let's say, a 3-night stay, they could come up after staying 1 night, and they could say they're leaving and receive the money back for those 2 additional nights. And this again is in keeping with those who are surrounding us, as well as the provincial parks.
Okay, questions? I just have one. How often does this happen, Jessica, with the cancellations?
It doesn't happen that often. Most times when people are leaving anyways, they assume that they're not receiving anything back, so they just leave and they don't tell us that they have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. If there's no questions, mover and seconder for the recommendation. Sharon, Grant.
Sorry, can we just go back a slide, Mr. Chair? I just realized there was an update to the package that went out. So the refund policy lists our long weekends that we require a 3-night minimum. There was a mistake on the July 1st long weekend. We had it the weekend before in June. So we're just noting here that it will actually be July 1st to July 4th and make that update in the final documents.
Okay.
That's what that slide is speaking to.
And just one other thing with the electrical being included now and not being a meter, I think should we have something going out, just letting people know that the electricity is it'll be adjusted every year. So people leave their AC on for a week when they're not there, that these high bills will affect the next year's.
So, Mr. Chair, we did send that information out to the seasonal campers at Dalewood last week. And it included a messaging in there that while we will no longer be charging for the hydro use, the meters will remain active. and help us set rates in the future.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right,
So I have a mover and a seconder on the motion. Baldwin Sands,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Cribble,
Yes.
Trousseau. Sam? Do you
Yes.
agree with? Yes, thank you. Wilson?
Yes.
Noble?
yes,
And that motion passes.
okay. And capital budget predictions. Elizabeth.
So this is the last piece that's really required to be added to the 2027 budget. You see in the report that I put out in advance that we're proposing capital expenditures for 2027 of the highest I've ever gone at $746,000, which includes a $578,000 budget to continue the rehabilitation of the Dalewood Dam. We've always managed our capital expenses by carefully managing funding, amortization costs, and our capital reserves, so that we don't go out with basically a capital apportionment request to our member municipalities. We've handled that for 20 some odd years like that. It requires careful planning and is necessary to ensure our proper asset management without reliance on the municipal apportionment. The Dalewood Dam, though, is stressing that management perspective. So this year, we're moving ahead based on board direction to do a $600,000 project, $500,000 project on the dam. And that's solely because we were able to get that WECI funding. And I'm hoping that we can do something similar next year. And that's what I've built into this budget, is that we would take another $289,000 from our own reserves and hopefully match it with another WECI funding proposal. That's unsecured right now, but based on the ranking of the dam this year, it's hoped that we would have a similar ranking next year and be able to proceed with that. It does mean that for 2027, we really narrowed things down to necessities, needs based on life expectancy. So there is a vehicle replacement in there for the 2500 truck, which is based on the maintenance that it's seeing now and the end of life analysis that we've done on it. The shop furnace, just based on consolidation happening and good asset management. We had maintenance company come out and take a look at both our main shop and this office. He's suggesting that the furnace at the shop definitely needs to be replaced sooner rather than later, based on age and maintenance. The one here at the office is in better condition. So I have built a shop furnace into the budget. In reviewing things with staff, we did up the budget there to $30,000, which would allow us the opportunity to, if you go back to the shop, it's a fairly big shop, but there's about half of it is heated and the other half is non-heated. But we're finding as we move more and more to battery operated equipment, having those stored in a heated facility or just above, like not freezing facility, increases the longevity of their life. So we would replace the furnace, insulate the non-heated portion of the shop, and then probably acquire one of those propane heaters that just keeps that area of the shop above freezing. I've continued to look at campground updates just to increase revenue potential for us. So we've put a placeholder in for $40,000 to be able to continue those improvements and roll those out both at Lake Whitacre and Dalewood. And then there's the standard placeholders that we have for our pooled assets and computers. So in total, that brings it to about $746,000. You can go to the next slide. This does mean that it puts an incredible amount of pressure on our capital reserves. So we're starting the beginning of 2026, we had a capital reserve balance of about $714,000. Once we've undertaken what we planned for this year, plus the Dalewood Dam, it almost cuts that reserve in half. and we will end the year around 387,000. Realizing that, I expanded the capital plan beyond our typical 4 to 5 year capital plan and took it out to 2032. Just to see how expectations of staff and the capital asset that we know that we have to undertake, how that impacts the reserves. This is a very conservative look at it, but it does get quite scary in 2027 and 2028. So we dip down to levels below 200,000. It begins to recover after that. And I will say that these projections don't include any pushes to the capital reserves based on our revenue projections for those years. So in the past, I would say 10 years, we've been able to push on average about 30 to 40,000 to our reserves annually based on revenue generating from the campground. It's hoped, or I would say, obviously by these numbers needed, that management tactic continues to keep those reserves replenishing, to keep our assets at a good state. Next slide. So I did put a very draft 2027 to 2032 in the advanced packages. It really looks at both trying to keep it at things that are reaching vehicles and equipment that are reaching end of life, or either end of life or useful life, and prioritizing needs, but also recognizing that we also don't want to lose our opportunity to increase our revenue. So there is, I think, in each year some type of revenue potential in those years as well. But again, as I mentioned, we're looking at trying to push 30 to 40,000 at least from campground revenue to replenish those capital reserves. So today, my goal is just to apprise you of that situation. Staff continue to look at that projections over those years and we'll refine it. We're continuing to get more updated quotes on things that we want to do between now and 2032. So we're giving you the best perspective that we can. But I'm looking today for direction to include the priority items in the 2027 capital budget and flow those through the budget for presentation next month. And that will bring an updated, refined 2027-2032 capital plan to you for approval at next month's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Lori?
In regards to the truck and the combination of the upgrades that you're planning on doing to the shed, is there a possibility to consider an electric vehicle? Because you're already doing it with lawnmower. It would have to be not just the purchase of the electric vehicle, but also a charging station. I'm fully aware of that, but more and more people may, when they're camping, be using electric vehicles in the future. So it might be something to look into. So an EV charge at front gate, for example, or something in the shed.
I think the truck that they're looking at is a 2500, Lori. I don't know that there's a 2500 pickup truck available.
Understood. That's why I'm asking that.
Yeah.
Because it's a goal for the green team here, something that to consider.
Mr. Chair, to Lori, absolutely. So the capital plan projections up to 2032, the 2500, I don't believe will be a candidate for electric. But then after that, the goal of staff is to look at whatever vehicles we can to move them to electric, which is the reason why we're looking at insulating that back shop area.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Mover and seconder for the recommendation that the proposed capital purchases be incorporated into the draft 2027 budget, and further that the updated capital plan for 27 through to 32 be presented at September 16th full authority meeting. Mover and seconder. Lori? Grant?
Alderman Sands?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Pribble?
Yes.
Trousseau?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
And Noble?
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Okay. Kettle Creek Clean Water Initiative, Betsy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two projects to present to you today for funding. The first is actually a municipal project. City of St. Thomas is looking to naturalize about 2.5 acres of land surrounding the Ball Complex and one of their stormwater management ponds. So they're looking to naturalize it into tallgrass prairie, a diverse mix of wildflowers and grasses. And looking to plant that this fall. So the cost for that planting is $7,500, and the grant request from the Kettle Creek Clean Water Initiative would be $3,000. And then the next slide, the second project is on private property in Central Elgin. The landowner is looking to create 2 wetland cells on the property, about 0.3 acres each. And you can see there by the pictures, they're wet areas at the edge of their agricultural fields, and they're experiencing erosion at those locations. So those are sort of ideal sites for us to create wetlands. The wetlands will also be surrounded by a 16-foot tall grass prairie buffer to buffer between the agricultural land and the wetlands. And the landowner also intends to include that buffer around the full field edge just to help with the erosion control issues. So the proposed cost from the contractor is $10,000, looking for a grant of $3,000. So today the recommendation, if the board is in favor of either of those projects or both, would be to approve them for both $3,000.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I fully support. I do have a request on the Terry Complex property. Has there been consideration in addition to what is being proposed, adding a elevated platform for an osprey? Because right around there is an osprey nest already in the lights, and they come back every year. I would still like to see cameras on some of our osprey nests that we've created in Lake Margaret, because there are people like me who do the osprey watches on the nests. And then in addition to what Jeff was telling us about the emerald ash borer, the best preventative measure is woodpecker. So putting some woodpecker boxes out there as well, which I know that in cooperation with the city, you might be able to have them do the installation of one or both of those projects while you're doing the renovation there. So that's my recommendation to add. Look forward to hear back what the results may be.
Okay. John, you had a question?
No. I was
No.
gonna-
Move it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Second, okay. For both? Both, okay.
Baldwin Sands,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pribble,
Yes.
Trusteau,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
and Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
All right. And August planning and regulation report.
Maisa,
Maisa didn't come in to do that one.
I believe she's online.
Okay.
Maisa? So the August planning and regulations activity report was forwarded. If there's questions, I can certainly entertain them, but I think it's.
No questions? Okay.
It's pretty straightforward.
Mover and seconder that the report be received. Grant? Lori?
Baldwin Sands?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Pribble?
Yes.
Trusteau?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
And Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Okay. Next on our agenda is the appeal for dog eviction.
Mr. Chair, staff there was a dog altercation at Lake Whitaker this past month. Staff, I think, dealt with it under regular protocol. The dog was found to be off leash and did cause harm to another pet in the campground, as well as harm to other people in the altercation, like there's scratches to the other individuals involved. Staff reviewed it and in accordance with our protocol did make the decision to evict the dog for the rest of the 2026 camping season. So this wasn't an eviction forever. We evicted the dog for the remainder of the 2026 camping season. You do see that you received an appeal from the campers involved. They've been seasonal campers at Lake Whitaker for some time. I did include their full appeal within the advanced package, as well as other supporting information from other campers that were speaking on their behalf. That was all included in the package. And you'll know from staff's perspective that nothing that was included in the appeal changed our opinion of the direction that we took. We thought it was reasonable under the circumstances.
Okay. That seemed pretty clear to me. Grant?
Yeah, I found a bit of a hard ass in this kind of stuff. This is an owner problem, and the owner needs to wear less. It should not leash.
Yes. I think many of us are dog people, but we have rules to keep everybody safe, and I feel staff followed the rules on this one, and it seems pretty clear to me. Do we need a motion on this, Elizabeth, or?
I would just clarify, just so it was on leash, it got out, like it was on leash, but the owner did not have control of it at the time. It got loose from the owner and then did cause injury to the other vehicles or to the other dog owner. I want to make that clarification, but based on everything, the staff still support the decision that we've made. And it's up to the board to differ from that.
So we need a motion or we don't?
If you're not going against what staff's decision is, I don't see that you need a motion. You can receive the appeal if you so choose, but
Looking around the table, we're confident that's what they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of dogs in that campground, and you have to have control of your dogs.
We have to have rules that we follow.
okay.
Okay. Motion to move into closed. Sharon? John? Sure can.
So we're moving into closed session at 11:18. Baldwin Sands?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Pribble?
Yes.
Trousseau?
Yes?
Wilson?
Yes.
Ed Noble?
Yes.
And that motion passes.